Welcome to 5 Minutes of Zen, episode 11. I have to grow more fingers. All right, let's start the clock. We were talking about intuition for a couple of episodes, and at the end of the last one I said we would talk about grace. And grace is an interesting concept when we are discussing Eastern meditation, particularly the accomplishment of a Zen state, which I have been calling a Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That means a level of meditation awareness that is direct, intuitive, and without remainder. There aren't things going on. There's just this oneness of complete knowledge. So why grace? Why talk about grace? We talk about it because there is this idea across all religions that there is a higher power needed in order for you to cross over to this pure realm of divine or spiritual knowledge. It's particularly used in the Christian sense for your forgiveness and salvation. You can't get to heaven without the grace of God. In an Eastern context, there is often higher powers in Buddhism, bodhisattvas, and in fact the divine consciousness of the Buddha himself is that power that helps you cross over. But that is in the more theistic sense. That is when this meditative philosophy starts blending with theistic philosophy. But when we get to Buddhism just in the sense of Zen and in the sense of a lot of early Buddhism, you work out your own salvation. There isn't a divine or higher power. There is only the essential essence of what you really are, is the true reality. So you're no different than that divine power. So there's not an other to pull you through. But the reason we need to talk about this now is because there is a sense in which perhaps this higher power intervenes. And let's talk about what I mean. What I mean is that when you are sitting there trying to have this experience, this direct intuitive knowledge, this Nirvikalpa Samadhi, you're trying, and it's you, it's your ego, it's your sense of self that is making this effort to transcend the self. So how can that happen? How can the self transcend itself? That's where this idea of another power other than yours seems to intervene. In my own experience, does it feel like that's what happens? It does feel like that. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's what happens. So let's walk through this. You're sitting, you're meditating, you are reaching for this moment of direct intuition. So you have been relinquishing thoughts, which is something active. You are doing that. You're relinquishing thoughts. You're trying to hold your own mind and awareness just on being aware, but not being aware of any particular thing. The last part that must drop away is even that sense of you, that you are sitting there trying to do something. It's a complete surrender. And surrender is where that feeling of grace comes in. It's difficult to let go of oneself. Most people don't want to lose control, is an often heard phrase from people. Well, I don't want to be out of control. I don't want to be sitting there and no longer be in control. Well, I have to break it to you. If you can't do that, you'll never succeed at this. You do have to completely surrender that very essence of what you think is you. That has to go. That has to be abandoned. Just temporarily. Just so that you can have that moment. The crossing will not happen. When you let go of that ego, suddenly the intuitive, direct Nirvikalpa Samadhi will appear. There it is. So it feels like grace because you didn't do it. At some point when you let go and surrender, this amazing intuitive moment of intense veridicality, that's that truthfulness, happens in a flash, and it feels as if suddenly you are discovering the reality, the secret of the universe, and it is all coming clear to you, but it's only because you finally let go. It was always there. It was always there, but it was covered. In order to pull back that veil, you have to relinquish the self. And that is why it feels like grace, because you weren't there to do it. And what is revealed seems so immense and so powerful and so absolutely true that you feel as if it reached in and intervened and helped you cross that barrier. So that's why we talk about grace. Is there grace? I don't know. Perhaps you, as your true divine essence, does reach through and rescue you from you, the false ego self. Is your self false? Well, let's talk about that on the next one. So grace is that moment where you feel like you didn't do it yourself, that almost as if something intervened. And in this meditative sense, it comes when you completely surrender yourself and ego. So we're over our 5 minutes. Let's talk more about this on episode 12.